Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email me. My email is still tmosso@thewatchbox.com. It is in the description below. It is your purchase and pricing email question line for this or any watch you see on any of our platforms. Please reach out to me directly for pricing. I am tmosso@thewatchbox.com. Today, we are discussing a spectacular release from 2015, building on the design language of the landmark 2005 Breguet Tradition. This is the Breguet Tradition Automatique Seconds Retrograde. It is a watch with a retrograding second and a design that echoes the best of historic Breguet pocket watches. Now, it's generally considered to be the best and most faithful translation of a Breguet pocket watch design for the wrist, and this one adds the retrograding seconds as well as a larger case compared to the original 2005 Tradition. The watch is 40 millimeters in diameter in white gold, 12 millimeters thick from lug tip to lug tip, 49.5 millimeters with a 21 millimeter spacing between the lugs. We'll throw it on my wrist, which is 16 centimeters in circumference, and while it is larger than the original 7027, it is not large. I would call it a conventionally sized modern men's dress watch. As you can see on my 16 centimeter circumference wrist, particularly down the barrel, it's evident that the lugs do not project beyond the edge of my wrist, and I could recommend this watch for a wrist as small as 15 centimeters in circumference. It's thin enough with a sloped bezel and a generously sloped sapphire that it will slip easily underneath a tight sleeve or dress cuff. Here's the over-the-top shot that always exaggerates the width of the watch, especially since I'm pulling it down tight. And then one more time down the barrel. The strap is super high grade, large rectangular scale alligator leather with symmetrical scales. This is the most expensive cut of the alligator hide. It's a very dark semi-gloss navy blue with a folded edge, a monotone stitch, calfskin on the bottom. You can see a brand new uncrimped, ungouged Breguet factory strap. We have here a matching white gold Breguet pin buckle. And then the case. First, money was spent. You could see that because a combination of screws, bars, and set screws fix the strap to the case, not taking chances with spring bars here. This is a more expensive setup, but this kind of watch is worth it. Second, the lugs. They were inserted into slots in the case flank, welded on manually, and then the extra gathered material from the weld was removed by hand to create these super sharp breaks. This is slow-going, laborious manual case construction that very few brands still bother to include, even on high horology watches. So it's a real distinction here. And the case coining, which you can see all the way around the case band, was applied by cold rolling and then hand finishing in a jig. There's a flange that helps define the case back and the bezel, while also creating a slot for the center case. These flanges give way to domed case backs and domed bezel, both in polished white gold. We have a Breguet logo on the crown, and they thought of everything, a little kerf underneath the crown so you can more easily dig your nail in to set the time. Taking a quick look in profile, you can see how dramatically boxed that sapphire is. Boxed and cambered sapphires, the more cambered and boxed, the more expensive. This was not a cheap piece. Now, you will find many historic Breguet pocket watches with this general layout. Barrel at the center, finger bridges down to the balance, individual bridges for the individual drivetrain wheels. We have the barrel, great wheel, third wheel, fourth wheel, escape wheel, and then the balance. And this exact layout will be found on many historic Breguet pocket watches from the era of Abraham Louis Breguet and his sons. Now, what is a little bit different is that we have a retrograding seconds design over a dial side, solid gold, rose lathe cut guilloche dial. So this dial is both made of solid gold and cut on traditional guilloche engines manually by a guillocher who guides the system using hand and cams. That's why it says guilloche main or guilloche by hand. Now there's a little retrograding seconds hand right here. You can see it snaps to action when it reaches the end of its scale and imparts extra life to this dial, which already includes a mesmerizing dial side escapement and balance. And this is where the watch mixes antiquity with modernity. As you can see, we have a traditional Abraham Louis Breguet parachute shock protection system, the first shock protection system. This was originally designed for pocket watches. And then we have an overcoil hairspring, which centers the mass of the hairspring. This was designed by Breguet to ensure the watch would keep consistent time in any position. But what's different here is that this overcoil is made of silicone, which is incredibly difficult to do. And Breguet does it by creating the silicone hairspring in two different pieces using deep reactive ion etching and then clamping them together. Making three-dimensional silicone hairsprings is super complex, but Breguet has mastered it. So we have both the vintage overcoil and the modern thermally resistant and anti-magnetic silicone. Very difficult to do. You can also see we have an aerodynamic recessed bolt free-sprung balance for precise adjustment in 6 positions, one more than a standard chronometer. All timing adjustments are done using those gold bolts that move into and out of the rim, and because they're out of the free airstream, they minimize the effect of aerodynamic parasitic drag on the balance as it operates at 3 Hertz, or 21,600 vibrations per hour. The free-sprung architecture is also more shock tolerant. At center, you can see the barrel, which has been fully satinated on its cover. Each individual wheel is designed to echo the design of wheels in Breguet pocket watches, and you can see that they have been internally beveled, which is deeply impressive. Because Breguet watches traditionally were made before the era of Côte de Genève, you have a frosted finish across all of the surfaces, and they are a nickel anthracite coating to achieve that lovely dark gray. Look carefully though, but you can see modern anglage on the edge of each one of those bridges, as well as mirrored anglage on the interior of these beveled wheels. That is an incredible refinement that even many Patek Vacheron and AP watches will not include, certainly not to this extent. You can also see satination on the parachute shock protection spring, as well as mirrored polish on its edge. All screw heads are black polished with chamfered slots in circumference. You can see the watch does feature a stop seconds or hacking function. Then you turn it over, and you could see a duplicate of the hammer automatic that was used by Breguet. The original Breguet automatic, or perpetuel, pocket watch was created in 1780, and it did not have a 360-degree rotor like this. It was actually a bidirectional bumper, but it used a similar spade-style mass. Now, this is finished to a much higher degree with satination, black polish, mirrored beveling on its edge, but it is in the image of antiquity, and you can see it has been internally engraved with the Breguet script. Once again, we have frosting on the bridges, a note that this is a 6-position adjustment, a note that this is a 38-jewel movement. You could see the beveling on the edge of the bridges. You could see the black polishing on the screws. You could see the mechanism that underpins the retrograde in action right there. It's as beautiful on the back as it is on the front. The idea, though, is that you don't need to flip it over to enjoy the best view of the movement. From the front, you have the best seat in the house. It is an automatic winder with a 50-hour power reserve and 30-meter water resistance. One of the best watches you can buy. Pre-owned, Breguet offers peerless value and peerless quality. I compare it in good faith to the best from Laurent Ferrier, F.P. Journe, Patek Philippe, Vacheron, and Lange, but for a lot less money. Again, reach out to Team Mosso at thewatchbox.com for purchase and pricing details.